While Congress is largely backing the Defense Department's efforts to overhaul its acquisition system, lawmakers are pushing back on some of the Pentagon's reform requests. They are also concerned that the department's workforce cuts will cripple its ability to implement the reform agenda. Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis is here with more detail. Anastasia, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Terry.
How does Congress strongly support the defense acquisition reform agenda, but also have some concerns?
Yeah, so last year, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the Pentagon's plans to embrace more aggressive acquisition reforms. And as part of that overhaul, he directed the department to improve budget flexibility. If additional authorities are needed, the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, along with the military services, would have to come up with a legislative engagement plan, is what they called it in that memo, that would ensure that Congress is aligned with any proposed reforms that came from the Defense Department that would require statutory change. And in response, appropriators said that they assessed the acquisition reforms Hegseth laid out in that memo and came to the conclusion that those are internal in nature and that the Defense Department needs to demonstrate progress on those internal procedures first before seeking any additional authorities or changes to the current appropriations framework. So, for example, lawmakers said that above-threshold transfer and reprogramming requests are often slowed down because of the department, because they spend a lot of time waiting on additional details from the department, and that really slows down the process. So Congress wants to see them improve on that before they seek any additional flexibilities.
And is that guidance all consistent with the changes that they did approve in the National Defense Authorization Act?
Yes, it is. So, for example, for the Army, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, they approved all 13 budget line item consolidation requests that Army made for fiscal 2026. And they did say that, they support budget line item consolidation when the Department of Defense provides enough justification in a timely manner.
Well, let's get into the Army's proposal then, because they have been trying to make a case for more agile funding. How has Congress responded to that request?
Yes, they've been advocating for that for months, and the Army actually asked Congress to raise notification threshold for reprogramming and transfers from $15 million to $50 million for procurement programs and to $25 million for research and development efforts. Appropriators said that the department already has enough authorities to restructure their internal programming and budgeting processes, and that the challenges with execution can be solved within the department without congressional involvement and without statutory change. They also said that increasing programming thresholds alone will probably not solve program execution challenges. It will probably not improve that. And they also added at the very end that they actually discourage the defense secretary and service secretaries from submitting future requests of this nature.
So what other risks are they flagging then as the Defense Department's acquisition reform effort moves forward?
There are a couple. I will highlight the workforce because it's a big one. And they said that the workforce is the linchpin of this reform. But at the same time, DoD leaders have been expressing concern about their acquisition workforce and whether the workforce has the tools to execute this reform. And then lawmakers kind of echoed that sentiment in the spending bill, saying that they're concerned that workforce cuts, and I quote, will affect the Defense Department's ability to achieve the initial speed and agility sought by this reform effort.
And so did Congress give the Defense Department specific tasks or next steps?
Yeah, so for example, for the workforce piece, lawmakers want Hegseth, along with the service secretaries, to have an acquisition workforce strategy, and they want them to include a comprehensive assessment of the personnel needs to execute Hegseth's agenda. And on the budget flexibility piece, lawmakers want to work with DoD on improving the amount of details that they provide to Congress in their reprogramming submissions so the process can move a lot faster than it currently does.
There are a lot of acquisition reform trains seeming to be running on different tracks altogether. Do you have a feeling that DoD is going to be able to pull all of this together into comprehensive system reform?
When I spoke to acquisition experts, one thing that keeps coming up and that came up in the spending bill as well is the workforce. And the Defense Department has attempted reforms of this scale previously. And what I keep hearing is ultimately it all kind of didn't really stick because of the workforce, because the workforce didn't adjust. And that's what I keep hearing, is that it's not clear whether they have the levels of workforce and whether they have the tools to take the risks, kind of the tools and the confidence to take the risks that Congress and Hegseth want them to take through these reforms.
That's Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis. Anastasia, thank you for the update. We'll be watching all of these reforms as they roll out.
Thank you, Terry.
You can find her story at federalnewsnetwork.com.